Finally, the Skirk is here! I have been looking forward to this character quite a lot, mostly because I really like that she has this modality right with her normal attack mode versus her burst DPS mode. And of course her animations just in general are, very nice, all in all. But I also do believe that I'll be able to get a lot of enjoyment out of Skirk outside of the freeze team context. Like, yeah, I know that she has these passives that really heavily incentivize her to be played with full hydro cryo teams. I'm well aware of how her kit works. But just because this makes, hydro cryo teams her best teams, right, that should not mean that she is bad outside of it, right? It might be bad relative to what her best is, but that doesn't mean, like, you can't find use case for her kit in some other way, especially like again with her flexibility of being able to adapt to have like longer field time with normal attacks or shorter field time with the burst mode. I feel like it shouldn't be that hard to find use cases for her, right? Like her multipliers, if you remove the bonus multiplier value from that, her multipliers at a baseline are not terrible. So I really don't think she should be bad outside of freeze personally, but that's what we're going to test today. I've got a bunch of different weird team ideas, some that are definitely better than others, to test and showcase to you. Now, before we get into the non-freeze Skirk teams, I need to mention quick, this video is actually sponsored by none other than Genshin Impact itself. Crazy. Genshin is sponsoring me, so, there's a lot on the line for them. If I end up hating Skirk and non-freeze teams, maybe this will be a negative video. It's sponsored, but, well, I don't think that'll be the case. Anyways, on to the ad read. Genshin Impact is an open-world action RPG game available on multiple platforms. Version 5.7 is available now, which includes a new 5-star character, Skirk, reruns for the 5-star character, Shenhe, a new 4-star character, Dehya. Phase 2 includes the Pyro Archon Muika's rerun for the first time, and, notably, Emily, who's actually one of my personal favorites, but she's a little bit underappreciated. There's a new Archon quest featuring Dane's life and the Traveler and their sibling, as well as a character story quest for Skirk herself. There's also a brand new permanent combat mode, called Stygian Onslaught. It features 3 rotating bosses with every version. Players can attempt the challenge across 6 different levels of difficulty to test their skills. I'll certainly be trying the most difficult ones. I also personally want to mention that this new game mode can be played in co-op. It's not even in the ad read, but I'm really actually looking forward to some co-op shenanigans. One of the rewards for completing this combat mode is called Dust of Enlightenment, which allows you to re-roll the minor affixes on your level 20 artifacts. Yeah, re-rolling your RNG substats, crazy. Should make for a more enjoyable experience for building our characters. In the description and the pinned comment below this video, there should be a link to download Genshin Impact, as well as a gift code if anything in Genshin Impact 5.7 catches your interest. Real quick, my Skirk is C0, I have her weapon. I'm going to keep her build exactly the same throughout this entire video, just for simplicity. Ideally, I would have a cryo goblet instead of an attack goblet, but my cryo goblet option puts her at a really low amount of crit rate. I could swap the build around for different teams, and you should do that. I just want to keep things simple. This artifact set lets her, change her modes and still get good damage. I don't think you have to stress that much her artifacts, honestly. I think I will probably make a future video yapping more about her build options. I definitely have overall, good quality artifacts. In some teams, my crit ratio is just going to be a little bit scuffed because, her signature weapon gives a bunch of crit damage, so I have a very imbalanced crit ratio. It'll be fine. So, without any Void Rift generation, her normal attacks only last about 7 seconds. So that's the main thing that's kind of going to restrict us a little bit, but notably, right, you don't necessarily have to generate Void Rifts if you're fine with the lower field time, but I think we will try to be generating Void Rifts in most of the teams we're going to try today. But anyways, I'm relatively optimistic. I have a number of teams planned, and the first one I want to start with, because I think this is the one that is probably the most compelling, is Navia and Skirk together. My Navia, by the way, is not anywhere near fully invested. I do have, Muika's weapon for her, which is quite good. She's on 2-piece attack, level 80, level 8 skill, which I mentioned primarily because, my Navia could reach higher heights than she is going to reach here. Shalona, of course, will do Geo Red Shred damage bonus and also Red Shred for cryo and damage bonus. So, yeah, Also, Geo-Resonance is good. Our last slot, I think it's kind of flexible. I think it makes sense for sure to do like another cryo unit. I actually think for me, Sitlali might be the best, but that's because I have C1 Sitlali. As silly as it sounds, I think a Scofier might be the other best option. And the reason for this is just it's a little bit more cryo red shred, but she's also just a damage dealer. She'll keep up cryo off field so that we can generate crystallizes for Navia. But like honestly, Rosaria should work nearly as well. We can put her on 4-piece Noblesse, so she'll buff Navia, she'll buff Skirk, and then she gives a crit rate buff. My Shallonen is going to be on Fav. I do have C2 Shallonen, but I'm going to leave her on 4-piece Instructors, which obviously doesn't make any sense at all for this team. The reason I'm not going to change her to Scroll is because my C2 Shallonen is going to do a little bit more than what Scroll does anyways, so at least this makes my C2 Shallonen slightly closer to what a C0 Shallonen would perform like, right? So we're going to do some testing in Overworld here and see what team I like the most to bring to Abyss. Okay, so this team is going to be a little bit weird quick swappy. I think what we'll do is we'll start with Navia Burst. Rosaria, do Shallonen, do this, alright, and then we can go here, yeah. Oh, this thing is not tanky enough, okay. Okay, yeah, I think this team works pretty well. We need to go fight a tankier enemy. Guess we need to use our friend Bronze Lock to test. Don't take damage, I would like to not die. Okay, and bam, alright. Yep, first. Ah, don't kill me. Okay, do that. And this. Okay. Oh, I almost died with that. Okay, well, he got Geo Resistance. Okay. Yeah, that's why that did so much low damage. I mean, look, like, do you know how enemy, do you know how tanky this enemy is? I might want to take this Abyss to try to see like a more sustained rotation situation. In my previous testing of this team before, my overall experience is that this team ends up having a fairly good balance between Navia's and Skirk's damage. It doesn't feel like, you know, one or the other is overpowering each other. It really does feel like you're just, you know, kind of dual DPSing. And I really like that, right? Because the reason to play this isn't like, oh, you know, this is Skirk's best team, or this is necessarily Navia's best team. The reason to play this is because you have Skirk and Navia, and you like both of the characters. Not to say you have to do any one of these things, but just to explore, okay, how can this character be utilized in different ways? Because we can yap all day about how restrictive this is, but if the character can still actually be utilized in some form outside of those, you know, restrictive teams, is she really that restrictive? I don't know. Okay, now I want to see how Escoffier performs in place of Rosaria. And we're also going to try an alternate rotation that bursts on Skirk, kind of as if this is the first chamber of Abyss. Alright, do this, keep the goose on the loose. Alright, do this, alright, do that, okay. And do this. Okay, and then we do this, yep. And then we can attack with Skirk. Oh, it got resistance, okay, well that makes sense. Yeah, Bronze Lock, okay. Man, I really wish there was a testing dummy in the game for this kind of thing, because Abyss isn't ideal for testing. No, don't kill me. That was a solid enough showing of like a little bit of an alternate rotation, right? Got to do both these on Navia. Anyways, I really like the dynamic of this team, so we might take this to Abyss because it's just, I think it should be more interesting in sustained rotations, right? But let's go and try some other things. Next on my docket is Dehya, and you might be like, what are you talking about? If we put an Eons on, you can trigger a Superconduct. The second reaction mentioned in this passive is Superconduct, and then Cryo Swirl, Cryo Crystallize, right? So this is another team where we're going to have a second Cryo unit. So I think it's the exact same where Rosaria, Escoffier, Sitlali could all work. For how I want to play this team, I think Sitlali is going to be the best choice. I actually haven't tried this at all yet. I only tried it in Escoffier variant on stream, and the Escoffier variant, believe it or not, did work. Because as long as we have one Void Regenerated, we can do a burst on Skirk. Also, part of this idea is that, yes, we might get some melts on Skirk, but also we can get some melts on Dehya. Dehya melt is a thing that doesn't really work super well in general. Like, Dehya can't sustain melt. She eventually overtakes after she's doing her burst. But that's actually not a problem in this case, because the thinking is that we Dehya burst to get a few melts on Dehya, but then we apply enough pyro that after we're done with her burst, we switch to Skirk, do Skirk, and get some melts, at least for a few hits, from the leftover pyro after Dehya's burst ended. There might be compelling reasons, by the way, to put Dehya on tenacity. I have her on Vora cautious, of course, but tenacity would be better in some ways, worse in others. Alright, do that. And then we Dehya, right? We have cryo on enemy. We get some melt. Nice 70k melt. I do have Silali C1 again, right? Bam. We have leftover pyro. Then we do this. Like, I think this is the most fun variation of a Dehya melt team. It's obviously going to perform a little bit worse without the constellation investment on Dehya and Silali. This team was actually one of the things I was really looking forward to with Skirk. So I am absolutely over the moon that this one works as well as it does. We'll probably go more into this one, but let's try some other things. I'm going to leave Eons on here, and we're going to add in Kazuha. Now, before I discuss the last slot options, yes, this is Superconduct Skirk. The idea is we can generate, you know, plenty of Void Rifts by infusing Kazuha's burst from the Electro from Eon-san and get a Cryo Swirl by having a 4-slot Cryo teammate. And you're seeing a common trend here, by the way, of a 4-slot Cryo teammate, because this is the actual true restriction of this passive, is to be able to trigger reactions to generate Void Rifts. In my testing thus far, I found you really want to be able to generate Void Rifts from off-field, specifically before you switch to Skirk. Alright, let's do Eon-san first. Oh, I do think this will work less well if you don't have a C6 Eon-san, right? Vap. Like, this is not that good, to be clear. I think this is substantially more of a meme option than what I just showed. You can tell just by the fact that we failed to kill this boss in a rotation. But maybe this is just like having a 5-star cryo difference. And let's not forget the new endgame, right? The new endgame is going to have... I maybe shouldn't have done that. The new endgame is going to have... Yeah, you can see that's quite a bit better. Let's not forget to absorb the Void Rifts. Bam. Yeah. So, anyway, just a little bit of that additional red shred and damage contribution that Escoffier provides is helpful. I did a full clear through Abyss with the Escoffier team and cleared relatively easily. Like, it wasn't that hard. It's definitely not a strong recommend or anything from me. I just think the fact that this team can work as well as it does. Like, I've cleared Abyss with much, much, much worse teams than this one in the past. And like, new endgame being a factor, I'm not going to recommend this as an endgame team or anything. The Stygian Onslaught, right, wanting 3 teams and having a higher DPS check potentially. Point being, I'm not strongly recommending Superconduct Skirk. But at the same time, you might be surprised that it can work. Superconduct out of the way. Let's get into something that I'm sure some people have been wanting to see. How about Melt Skirk, right? She can get the melt reaction. Melt scaling means like 1.5 times baseline multiplication before any EM bonuses, yada yada. Passive, again, is a problem. So, classic, Shungling Bennett combo, right? Bennett for attack buffing, and Shungling does some decent off-field damage as well. While we could theoretically get a cryo crystallize, it's not going to happen consistently enough in a way that like we can actually sustain anything more than about, I believe, like 8 seconds of normal attacking, right? Yeah, we can't even do 3 full chains of her like N5 normal attacks. Since we're inherently going to have lower field time anyways, it's not really that big of a deal if we sacrifice some Bennett buff uptime. Alright, bam. Oh, I just canceled her big multiplier. Right, this is enough damage that like you can clear Abyss with this. I think it's relatively obvious. But Bronze Lock should let us see the uptime problem because the thing will live longer. Alright, so we can Bennett, flap, flap. Okay, do this. Alright, bam. Die. Sorry, wanted to make sure I didn't die. Right, and now we're done, right? Shungling is still going, but what do we do, right, after that point? Not much. You don't do that much. To be clear, it's still fine, but also remember I have C2 Shilonen. And in this context, Shilonen on Instructors makes more sense than Shilonen on Scroll, because Instructors is actually going to buff her melt damage. You just kind of end up sitting around doing nothing meaningful, even though like the damage you do in your short field time can be good enough to clear. So I don't know, right? So even as much as I like shenanigans, I don't think this is really that fun of shenanigans. I can't recommend a normal Melt team. But there might be something else we can do with Melt. Oh, by the way, I'm aware that there are, you know, optimal combos to do with Skirk's normal attacks and whatever for damage output that can be, like, actually meaningfully higher than just brain offing like I have been so far in this video. I'm gonna mostly just brain off with her, which I think makes it a more relatable experience. And if I can show that Skirk can work without optimizing her gameplay crazily outside of freeze teams, that means there's room to optimize things further with doing proper combos in different contexts. This.
To ashes. This will brighten up the place. Everybody stand back.
Okay, so it's the same thing, I think. Yeah. It's weird. Is this a Melt team? I don't know, but like you do generate mirrors, which lets you get longer field time. So while like on like a value level for it just being a whole bunch of different elements that you can throw together for like covering shield breaking purposes or whatever. Let's see, do we? Yeah, we did generate a Void Rip. Okay. I don't know. It's weird. It works. Now, I do have one more idea for a Melt Skirk team that I'm fairly confident will work, but it might make some people, well, okay, it might make some people happy.
I won't hold you back.
It might make some people very unhappy. We're using Silali and Shan Yun. Yeah, the idea here is pretty simple. Shan Yun, she's an Animo unit. With Silali, she can get a Cryo Swirl, so that will generate a Void Rift. So what we do is we hold E on Skirk and do her burst, and then we start doing Pyro Plunges with C6 Bennett. So this would be the only use case I could think of where you would consider leveling Skirk's non-skill normal attacks, right? The damage we're going to see here is going to be based on her Plunge multiplier from these normal attacks. I have it at level 1, keep that in mind. But my Shan Yun is a C2 with her weapon. Well, C3 technically, that doesn't really matter for buffing. But anyway, the point is, like, the amount of buffing I'm getting from Shan Yun means I don't think my level 1 normal attack talent matters that much. If you were going to seriously consider playing this team, obviously you should probably level your normal attack talent. And keep in mind that the numbers I'm going to get are inflated for various reasons. I just want to show that this team functions. The idea here, right, is that we can do a Skirk burst every rotation, and we can do Pyro Melt Plunges after. And we might, like, fail to get some melts on some of our Pyro Plunges. So I think what we do is we normal attack, put Cryo on it. So our VV uptime is going to be a little bit low. Oh well. Bennett, slap, slap. This. Alright, we hold E. Alright, and then we bam. Bam. Yep. And this should work consistently. I'm going to power down my Shan Yun. That's as close as I can get to turning her C2 off. Wow. Swirl. Bam, bam. Volley. Bam. Alright, and bam. Hello? Oh, well, okay. Yep, I mean, so, I think it has problems, if you didn't notice. As stupid as it is, Pyro Plunge Skirk works really well because of the fact that you can do Skirk Burst every rotation with a hold E burst and then just do Pyro Plunges after. I think it's really dumb that this works as well as it does. This basically turns her into Mawika in a way, and I think that's hilarious. It's so stupid though. And by the way, I did in my live stream try just like cryo plunging, because you can do cryo plunging, right? With this animation, which is I think is the animation that people want to see. So I did Eons on Shan Yun for Rina, and that works. It definitely does work. The ultimate point is that Plunge works. It definitely does. I don't usually default to Plunge shenanigans unless I feel it's necessary, but you might feel differently if you just enjoy doing Plunge shenanigans all the time. So that's all the teams I actually wanted to directly showcase. I do want to mention a couple other ones that are, I'd say, of a level that's not really worth showcasing per se, but do technically function in a way I find kind of fun. So one of them that I played was this team, quite frankly, honestly, I think without having a Raiden C2, this is not super worthwhile, and the reason is because Skirk feels like she does a lot more for the team than Raiden does. Point being, this kind of works. If you really like Raiden and Skirk and want to try to play them together, you could try something like this. And you could definitely replace Sitlolly in this team, by the way, with someone else. And this would probably make Raiden do meaningfully more damage. But what works for one person, whether it be me or someone else, is not necessarily going to work for you because of a million different contextual factors that exist in the game. Oh, I suppose I should at least mention, you know, Hyperbloom works. Yep. Despite how good she can be as a, you know, on-field unit in Hyperbloom, she has compelling low-investment team options that aren't Hyperbloom. Like, that's a problem some characters have, where if you don't have the premium 5-star supports for them, you just use them as an on-fielder for Hyperbloom, and that's like their best team option. That is not the case with Skirk, even at a low investment level, and that's a very good thing. The point is that you can do the Hyper Fridge format, and it does work quite well. It's fairly comfortable to play. The fun of Hyperbloom, in my opinion, is like what you decide to do with an on-fielder. So if you just want to enjoy your Skirk, it's a team option that works well. Now I do want to try one other thing really quick with my favorite Genshin cat. Meow. The idea, I think, is here for getting a good amount of damage on a burst on Kirara. Alright. Do this. Bam. Bam. Alright. And then we go do Skirk things. You know what? That actually worked pretty well. To be clear, this is a freeze team, I think, for Skirk. It's not, obviously, a melt team. But you can get fun front-loaded damage value from Kirara. You probably just do her on an emblem build. Also, Kirara, you know, cat box shield, so Calamity actually works on her. It's time to move on to the Abyss. I'm going to go and do a run with the Navia team as well as my Dehya team. Alright, start with Navia burst. Up. Alright, do this. Do this. Bam. Yeah, this is like, I don't know, this team has a really satisfying dynamic. Let's do this. I didn't really have to do that to start, but I don't know. You have the first Abyss rotation with Skirk teams is always weird. So alright, do this. Alright, bam. And now we just have to wait for the next phase. Like, this team clears in some ways more smoothly than some other Skirk like Hydro Cryo teams I have used. I don't know. And that's a circumstance, to be clear, like the enemy mechanics, like stalling out things, but also just bam. The fact that this team is, you know, a weird. What am I trying to say? Bam. Oh, I didn't have whatever. Sorry, my brain is like doing stupidity. It feels relatively balanced between the two units. I don't know. It's great. Please feel free to go in the comments and like let me know, you know, what teams you think were the most compelling on an idea level, or whatever ideas you might have for non-free Skirk teams. Do one real rotation maybe against this. No, can't even get my energy back properly. There we go. Okay. Do this. Do this. Alright, and we bam. Do that, I guess. Bam. And, oh, we were still on cooldown. Whoops. Okay. I was gonna burst on Skirk, but I was I was quick swapping too much. Okay, third chamber boss should be a bit weird for this team. Okay, this. Let's see. That. Let's try it. Well, oh no, we really should have normal attack there because it's not gonna. Is it under? Yeah, it's not under the. You gotta stay under the 10% threshold on the meter. Okay. So we have to fight this a little bit differently with this team. That. Do this. Do this. Do this. Oh shoot, you see that? Okay, it's really hard to get two E's in, I think, on Navia with the because you really need to like keep on doing cryo on this thing, right? Is what it is. Okay. And bam. Oh, no, it had a resistance up. I just wanted to get the kill with Dahlia. Oh, lame. You butthole. Oh, I let her die. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I tried to go out with style and I went out with failure. It's fine. It doesn't matter. We were just trying to flex, really. It's safe to say, like, the team is plenty more than competent enough. And yes, the buff for Skirk does something meaningful for her, particularly in this chamber, I think. But the other chambers I was bursting more on Skirk, and it's a normal attack damage bonus, not a burst damage bonus. So yeah, I don't know. Overall, I think the Navia and Skirk team is realistically the best team at like proving that, yeah, you can seriously consider, you know, using this character with her weird modality with longer field time, shorter field time in teams that are not just freeze teams. This is a really fun example of why I was looking forward to Skirk, and actually makes me want to invest more in Navia. But let's try the Dehya team. The Automaton is a little bit scary though when you bring Natlan units to it. But one of the valuable things about Dehya is that she can make you tank a lot of damage with her skill, so I think it'll actually be fine. I think we can tank the really big damage hits. Bap. Do this. Get rid of the first wave, yup. And bam. Okay. For that. We didn't have Eon Sun. Well, no, we do have Eon Sun buff up a little bit still. Alright, cool. Yeah, was it quite worth doing that? I don't know. Let's do this. Oops. Do this. You're flying up in the air. Alright. Do this. Wasn't exactly worth the damage there, but I don't know. Like I love the dynamic of this team. I didn't think this team was gonna work as well as it did. Like, and to be clear, again, I tested this team on stream before with Escoffier before I tested Sitlali, because I wanted to make sure it worked without like Sitlali constellations. And yes, Sitlali with constellations makes this better. I think I also need to figure out my energy situation a little bit here on Skirk. Or not on Skirk, on Dehya. I do not have C4 Dehya yet. C4 Dehya will probably help me a lot. Point being, I need to tweak the builds a little bit. Die. Nice. Okay, that was satisfying. It did take me a retry because Seahorse annoying shield mechanics, but As you can see, the damage is there. Is this harder to play than a Skirk freeze team? I mean, yes. I'm used to playing weird teams with Dehya, so... Okay, this boss might be a bit scary. I should have waited to do that, maybe? I don't know, maybe not. Alright, we just go attack with normal attacks, because we have to keep on playing cryo. Alright, and we didn't have energy anyways. Okay, we didn't go into the state because I used my abilities early, which is probably a good thing. Alright. Oh, Dehya was hard carrying my life there. Oh my lordy. Okay, I was right. Dehya tankiness for the win, but anyways. Do this. And burst for the win. Wham. Like, I don't know. Is that not enough proof that Skirk can work outside of freeze teams? Obviously, various forms of my extra investment in things helped, but like, I don't know. At the same time, like the signature weapon on Skirk, I was able to get that because I got lucky. I'm not saying it was the correct decision to get. That's a whole another conversation. I think it's safe to say that Skirk can work quite well outside of freeze teams, right? So you know, as far as what happens when you dare consider that, I think this character becomes a more fun character. I really like this character a lot. The Abyss, you know, buff and whatever is making me maybe feel a little bit of inflated value from her, for sure. I also think these teams perform well enough that I'm quite confident I'm going to enjoy them more as I play her more. I like her freeze teams too, for what it's worth. I'm someone who likes shenanigans, and there's a lot of people who are like think this character is one of the most restrictive characters they've released. From my point of view, the restrictions in this character's kit is more to uplift this particular archetype more than it is something that prevents you from playing her on other teams. She does, to be clear, in her kit have things that make it really hard to use her with Pyro, but you can still use her with Pyro, just in like maybe ways you didn't expect kind of thing. I plan to get Skirk on a casual account of mine, and I probably will not play her outside of non-freeze teams, because when you have an account with less artifact options, way less, you know, character options, obviously that limits you in significant ways, especially if it's an account that doesn't log in and farm regularly, right? My recording for this video is over 2 hours long. I don't know. Skirk is a formidable cryo user who commands the cosmos' darkest energies. She wields abyssal mirrors